Prices for the golf tournament scheduled for Headhra in Limerick in 2 years' time, as you know, are already elevated, he says. And he's warned the industry that a customer's experience will have to match the high prices that they're being charged. For more on this and what he said as well, I'm joined by Eoghan Corry, who's editor of Travel Extra. Fall through, Eoghan.
Margaret Cormac. I hope my voice holds out for this. I have a little bit of laryngitis.
No, you're okay. We can hear you loud and clear. It's Alan Evans we're talking about here, the Ryder Cup executive. And he was speaking at the hotel industry conference in Killarney. What did he say?
Yes, Killarney, all the hoteliers of Ireland gathered in fairly buoyant mood, it has to be said. Earlier this week, things looking a lot better than where they have been. Included in the issues was exactly what you've been talking about. The amount of accommodation out on contract to the government has been reduced from about 15% down to about 8%. So it will look better for hotel prices this summer coming. And then Alan from the Ryder Cup said something very, very interesting. He mentioned the word elevated prices. And the interesting part of the interest in this and part of the surprise in this is we don't yet have a date, Cormac, for the Ryder Cup. It will be announced, Alan said, about April, and then in September, the Long Island Ryder Cup will conclude and the big preparations start for the Irish Ryder Cup. But I think this opening salvo about hotel prices is probably the tee-off of a very long round of discussion about what the prices will do.
Yeah, and this is going to be a huge event, isn't it? I mean, the amount of people going to a Ryder Cup, how many people is it, Eoghan, in terms of staff and visitors?
It's an incredible amount. And what Alan was dealing with really was looking for staff places. He isn't even talking about the spectators as yet. There are 9,000 full-time staff coming in for the Ryder Cup. Now, you compare that with, let's say, Apple in Cork employs 6,000 people. It's a major multinational industry arriving in the little town of Headhra for a period of time. Some of them will be there for weeks and weeks and weeks. Some of them will only be there for a few days. You then have 1,500 volunteers. The broadcasters, Ryder Cup couldn't exist without broadcasters. There's 1,000 bed nights a night being taken up by them. So before you even go into the spectators, and we're talking about perhaps 200,000 spectators, at least 150,000. They haven't actually worked out or given the capacity for Headhra, for spectator capacity. But I do know in Straffan, where I come from, in 2006 was a record attendance at that stage for the Ryder Cup. Things have moved on massively since then. Last time round, there were 750,000 applicants for tickets, and they gave out 250,000 in Rome. Whether Headhra will be handling those numbers will yet to be seen. But as you say, massive event, and there's going to be over 300,000 bed nights required. That's where the hoteliers come in.
Do you know what? It's worth reading the quote from the Ryder Cup executive to a room full of hoteliers, right? And it's ballsy to say this to the industry, right? He said, it surprised us a little.
It was nice and gentle and soft.
Well, wait till you hear. People can make up their own minds. It has surprised us a little just how elevated some of the rates are, he told 300 hoteliers. And he went on to say, have an eye on the guest experience and make sure the experience matches the price you're charging. Now, it seems to me that he's implying that some of the prices don't reflect the actual experience of the hotel. Would that be fair, do you think?
Absolutely. I was in the room as he said it. There was silence in the room. The real issue he was saying is, if this is what we're doing at this stage, when we don't even have the date, what's going to happen when the ball actually gets teed off for the run into the Ryder Cup? So what he was saying is really, I'm not going to criticise you for your rates, but make sure that the experience matches it, as you say. And then he added something very interesting. We'll be looking for feedback from this, and Ireland will be looking for other major sporting events. We have a good record on the big sporting events that we can handle. We'll never really be going for the Olympics, the FIFA World Cup, UEFA finals. We might get one or two matches for that. But one thing we do have lots of is terrific golf courses, 400 of them, 100 of the links courses, 1/4 of the links courses around the world. Our reputation is golf, and the biggest financial market for golf, and the Ryder Cup is really, it's talked about, it's broadcast in something like 80 countries, but the one country that matters is the United States, our second biggest tourist inbound market by numbers, and our biggest by spend. It's going to be the centenary of the Ryder Cup. The Ryder Cup is going to be paraded all over American media. And that's why Irish tourism is so buoyant about the prospect of getting this big tournament into Headhra in 2027.
We're getting texts in this already to 51551. Owen, the listener says, already Ryder Cup tickets this year are at a $749 US. So you can be sure that they won't be far off $900 in 2 years. So who's ripping who off, says that listener.
Okay,
so
that's an important point.
Yeah, are these people with deep pockets?
He made that point in the room. He made a point in the room, and it's a very obvious thing. The finger can be pointed straight back at the Ryder Cup. The New York prices, the hotel prices are off the roof. He said that was largely because it coincides with the UN General Assembly. He said that the Rome prices were very high for hotels as well because Rome is 75,000 rooms, but they've elevated prices all year round. But when he mentioned and he brought it up, by the way, not the delegates, he brought up the $750 price, and he said we will not be charging that much for the tickets when it comes to Ireland, and he warned the hoteliers not to measure their rates against what the New York rates are. The implication really is that you can charge what you like in New York. You can charge for everything from a cup of coffee to a Ryder Cup ticket is going to be going at double the
It seems to
face
me,
value.
though, I mean, let's be fair here. This is called dynamic pricing, isn't it, by some? Is it not simple supply and demand? And when there's a big event and there's a huge demand for anything, prices go up. Simple as, no?
Pretty much, we're very familiar with it because Ryanair were one of the first to practice this in the Irish market. What the hoteliers have done is learn from the low-cost airlines. When the demand is high, the price goes up. In the old days, there was a sort of a notice behind the door, and it told you the maximum price for a room. That has really gone out the window because of the nature and the way in which beds are sold. The revenue manager in a hotel now is nearly as important as the GM because all of them just look at where the high demand is, try and calculate using AI, using all the technology, all the tools, and put their rates in. What then affects it, and this is important as well, is that supply-demand issue. When the Ryder Cup was held in Strafford in 2006, there was access to a very big bank of beds in Dublin. City West was very important. That was where the gala balls were held. In Headhra, it's quite rural, but it does have access to probably the second or the third biggest bank of beds in the country. There's 5,500 hotel beds in Limerick, 6,500 in Clare. But the key to this is Kerry. 13,000, nearly 14,000 hotel beds in Kerry. Killarney, the tourism capital of Ireland. And we are assured by our politicians the Headhra bypass will be built by then.
Okay. Listener says, John in Cork, just on the 2006 Ryder Cup, the last Ryder Cup here in 2006 was an absolute disaster for hotel bed nights compared to what was promised. So says John. We'll finish with mixed text to 51551. He says, Cormac, the hotel industry in Ireland will never change. Rip people off. The night of Ireland versus England rugby in Dublin a few years ago, up to and even on the day, there were empty rooms being advertised on several sites for extortionate rates. Several of these rooms went unsold. They were prepared to leave empty rather than take less. I was trying to book some, so says Mick. Well, there you have it. Go on, Owen. Briefly.
Always a gamble, Cormac, and there has been a big handback of rooms before the last two Soccer World Cups. The Strafford Ryder Cup, I do remember my neighbours, some of them counting on how they were going to rent their house out for vast amounts of money. It never happened. The demand and the real key to it is, Alan Evans made the point that not everybody who claims to have access to Ryder Cup tickets has access to Ryder Cup tickets. That's really going to be where the crunch point is. Without a Ryder Cup ticket, the bedroom is worthless.
Okay, this is going to be an ongoing conversation, I feel. Eoghan Corry, editor of Travel Extra, thank you very much.